everyone who's here on stage with us has participated in a podcast that we've pretty much finished actually. So it'll be launched likely next week. So I'll keep you all posted and let you know once that's available. But yeah, it's a series of 5 discussions really. James is going to tell us a little bit more about it. But yeah, without further ado, please welcome Andre, James, Jay, Brian, Joey, and Maya. Thank you.
Hello, will you all hear me? Yes, perfect. So again, hi, I'm James. I am a nerd. So over the past couple of months, we've been putting together a podcast as the Bridging a Gap team, sort of as an extension of the symposium, sort of exploring some of the themes that have come out of our interviews, looking at things like community, looking at the tech ecosystem, looking at industry, talking about our research practice, those sorts of things. And we've got some great people here who I think were all participants in our study, and I'm going to ask them some wonderful questions. First, I'm just going to introduce everyone. So if we start with Jason. Jason, can you just tell us who you are briefly?
Okay, so I'm Jason, but everybody calls me Jay, so I guess there are 2 J's today. So I'm a music producer, audio engineer, and accessibility consultant. I've been working in the industry for many years. You know, if I tell you how many, you'll probably give away my age, but many years. And yeah, in a nutshell, and I actually work with several manufacturers to make their equipment accessible, and there are so many cool things on the horizon.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Jay. Brian, if you could tell us who you are, please.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe while we do this, Joey, could you tell us who you are, please? Oh, is Joey also not here? There we go. Yeah, can you see if you're...
Hello? Is this on?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Hello everybody. My name's Brian Matthews. I've been playing music for a long time. I've recently got more into recording and releasing, so I'm an indie artist under the name The Rain, R-A-Y-N-E. And as Alex was mentioning in the previous talk, I've been doing a lot in GarageBand, principally preparing demos that I then take into the studio.
Awesome. Joey?
I am, let's see if my mic's on. Nope, there we go. I'm Joey Stuckey, and I am sexy as Elvis with half the fat. And the beautiful thing is that I can't see Elvis, so you can't ever convince me I'm wrong. I am from the United States, as you can tell. I'm from Georgia, and so I'm excited to be here. I'm a recording engineer and producer. I've been doing that since I was about 15 years old. I will not tell my age, but I've been doing it a while. I own a pro recording studio as a commercial recording facility. Also work as a adjunct faculty for several universities, and music journalism, accessibility activist. So all these things, I basically have 2 speeds: full speed ahead and off. And but I am so excited to be here and to be supporting this effort. It's amazing.
Awesome, thanks, Joey.
Yeah.
Did we have Andre?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, you're beside me. Hello.
Why, hello.
I thought I was on the end. You stuck in. Andre, who are you?
Who am I? My name is Andre Louis, and I'm a long-time musical something or other. Been playing music for a lot of years, been doing testing and accessibility for native instruments since 2016, and recently become a Logic trainer myself. I'm of the R-man category, sorry, Scott. But yeah, that's me a bit.
Awesome. And then Maya?
Okay, I'm on. Okay. Hi, I am Maya. I am a nerd.
Yes, good.
And and I was wondering why I am here with all of these qualified people, because I'm only a beginner music producer. I'm very happy I can be here. Like I said, I am a music producer as a hobby or more in my free time. And I've learned to be a sound engineer technician, and I got my certificate last month, I think. Yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So as everyone were speaking, I looked for the reason to be able to say that I am what I try to do here and what I can, let's say, bring to the table. And I think that I'm most interested in things like the Sound Without Sight will be trying to do, like to share the knowledge and create a database of the knowledge about accessible hardware and software for VIB community. So I'm very happy and I can be here and I am able to meet all of these people and, let's say, network.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strong women in the industry.
Girls make beats.
So we're very thankful for both Joey and Maya flying in, Joey from the States and Maya from Europe.
Thanks for having me.
It's all good. So Maya, I actually wanted to start with you. You know, as you said, you actually have quite a lot to offer. Tell us about your learning experience so far and why you think things like Sound Without Sight are going to be so important for you moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I started to get interested in music creation when I was, I think, 13, 14, so 10 years ago. And then I didn't have any music industry friends or fellow musicians to ask questions. So I didn't know what to do. I tried to search some answers online and I tried to learn different things. I used Goldwave mainly first and then maybe Reaper. After high school, I went to the special school for blind people. One school in Poland offered the course for sound engineers, like during high school or after. So I joined these and I've learned there, and I had amazing team of teachers there, and they are very interested in accessibility in different forms and to teach us voiceover and Pro Tools and to be able to be equal with our sighted counterparts. But I know that some things are not so accessible in Poland, like in the knowledge terms. I mean, like sometimes some solutions are developed abroad, for example, for blind community, and we didn't know that about this because we weren't so connected with the community. So that's why I started to ask different questions in different places, and I connected with Jason Dassent, who is there as well, and thanks for him, I am included in this project, so thanks, Jason. And I started to tell them about it, and they got very interested in me being involved because I can tell them about it and share the knowledge with them, but also with Polish VIB community of musicians. Yeah, so that's why I think it's important because I didn't have these opportunities, so many of them, and then I got in touch with different people doing the same thing as me, and it's the most rewarding and happy memory of my life. So
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Maya. I mean, I think that that sharing of knowledge is becoming a stronger and stronger theme in the VIB community around the world. And obviously, communities of VIB sound creatives is one aspect of that, but another is manufacturers and developers who also need, you know, education and you know, participation from VIB people to help make their products more accessible and accessible in a better way. And Jason is probably one of the most famous people in the community for doing that kind of work. Jason, you were at ADC yesterday, chatting with a lot of manufacturers. Tell us how things have been going on that front.
Okay, guys, so I'm sitting here with a smile on my face, and I have that smile because it's a great day, right? I have been behind the scenes for maybe the last 6 years, actually, and within the last 3 years, some really amazing things has been happening. So, for example, I came in this morning, and I was hearing about some of the challenges, you know, in bridging the gap, and I had a smile because I'm happy to tell you today that a lot of those challenges have been met and solved, right? So maybe, James, should we probably talk about a couple of the products that are about to come out that I do have permission to speak about?
Oh, sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the first one is the SoftTube Console 1. How many of you have heard about SoftTube? Yeah, fantastic manufacturer. So their Console 1 it's their mixing system. It's a bit like a control surface, but yeah, we call it a control surface for now, but it's a lot more than that, right? So both from a hardware point of view in terms of being tactile, it's beautiful, it's amazing, so I'm sorry, I don't have one with me today, but for a visually impaired person, it's the perfect solution, tactile. Add to that now the software that we've been developing for the last 4 months, right? And I'm happy to say it's not 50%, it's not 75%, it's 100% accessible. And it's about to be launched really, really soon, right? It ticks all of the boxes in terms of feedback, reading of meters. I can read input meters, output meters, peak meters, gain reduction in real time. I can have it automatically monitor, which I know metering was something that was quite stressful for us visually impaired people for some time. So that's fantastic. There's a fantastic training mode, so you can understand your EQ curves and everything. This ticks all the boxes. When I describe it, the only thing I can say is when I use it, I feel like if I'm not blind. And you guys, everybody needs to check this out. And I'm not being paid to say this or anything, right? I'm not, no, really and truly. And what was nice is the approach that SoftTube took with it. They didn't go for halfway accessibility or anything like that. They assigned an engineer to work with me for the last 4 months every day. Yeah, so, right? And yes, I was paid for my work with them, but I'm not paid for any advertising or anything. But I was, just to be clear for transparency, I was paid as a consultant. So that's one, the SoftTube Console 1. It ticks every single box for us visually impaired people. It solves every problem in terms of mixing and mastering. So that's one, right? The next one is Arturia. You guys have known that the Analog Lab V was accessible for the last year, right? Since around July last year. So I worked with them also on the development of that, the Key Lab series of accessibility. Accessibility in that's accessible, in much the same way as Complete Control is, but they've gone a step further. So now with Juice, you can use not just Analog Lab, but every instrument in the V collection without any proprietary hardware. So you're not tied to the Key Lab. Although with the Key Lab, of course, it's going to be the best experience, with their hardware and software. But you're no longer tied. So you could browse their amazing library. It's like it's thousands and thousands of patches. You can search, you can like and unlike presets. It's easy. It's like a snap to find things. And we're 3 years into the development of it, and it's just getting better and better. And the person who I met, Kevin Malcard, who's really pretty high up in the company, I can't remember his title right now, but we've done a lot, and all he says is it's only the beginning. Just pledging their commitment to accessibility. Sarah, my wife, and I, we just came back from their head office in France. We were invited to France to come and take a look at a software release just before it was released, which it was released like last Thursday or Friday. So Arturia V Collection and the Key Lab series, definitely we need to check it out as visually impaired people. And one more I'll give you, Focusrite. Luke, you here in the house? Luke from Focusrite. So Sarah and I also had the privilege of working with Focusrite to develop the Vocaster software, right? And that's also accessible from the hardware and software. It does some really cool things for us as VIs. So for example, it auto-sets levels, so you don't really have to worry about setting up a level. When we want to record something, you just talk and it scans your voice for 10 seconds and it sets your levels. You can then go tweak these levels, from a nice tactile big dial on the top, right? You can mute things, the compressors and everything is accessible on the unit. Really beautiful design, both hardware and software, right? And just to name a few, and a lot of manufacturers have contacted me since then, and it's a great day for us to smile.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. I think smiling is definitely increasing on the horizon. Keeping with this theme of knowledge, we'll come back to the tech in a second. One of the things we discovered in our Bridging the Gap study was that in the community there are several experienced people who have taken it upon themselves to offer their knowledge in the form of teaching. Scott is one, Jason is another, but also Andre. Andre, why have you decided that teaching other visually impaired and blind people is important? And also, all of this tech that we've just heard about from Jason, do you see that being a big part of your teaching process?
If I could get access to it, it probably would be. I just don't have any at the moment. Why do I think teaching is important? Because I think passing on knowledge is important. And if you have that knowledge and you hoard it, then you're a bad person.
Straightforward.
Yeah, I'm a very straightforward, straight-talking person. And I believe that if I can teach somebody to do something they couldn't do this time last week, then they're better for that, There are a lot of people that might have been given a computer or something, usually Mac in my case. Is that better? Okay, so yeah. And so I teach Logic Pro to blind students. I've even had teachers of VIs ask me, or tell me, by the way, Logic isn't accessible, we heard it from such and such. It's a first-party product from Apple, and it has been accessible for quite a long time now, at least since I started using it back in 2016, and a little bit before that. And there's quite a lot of us jumped on it in 2016. And so we've just sort of built up this community of creators, producers, teachers, composers, what have you. And it's an ongoing effort between all of us to educate and motivate and inspire. That's kind of the words that I like to use when I do that. I even do like a YouTube channel based around this whole concept, where I break down some of the tracks that I've made, and I've done fly on the wall sessions that I give to my students, because I also produce in my living room, which is what I call my studio, but don't tell anyone. It's cheap and cheerful, but it works. And so I get vocalists come in, and something I really, really enjoy, for example, is a vocalist will come in with no key idea, no idea what tempo to do the track at, and it's my job to build that person's track from absolute start to absolute finish. And I give them something they can take away at the end of the day that they didn't have when they walked in the room that afternoon. So as I do that, I'm learning on the job as well, James. So not only am I teaching, but I'm being taught by virtue of working with others.
Yeah, I suppose that cycle of teaching, right, and being taught is really important in our community, where we don't, have the one school in the world where all of this stuff happens. Obviously, we have great, centers of learning. We have places like Goldsmiths. We have Berkeley College, but a lot of this learning happens within the community. Maya, I just wanted to go back to you for a second, because it seems like that attitude that Andre sort of described of sharing knowledge is quite similar to your own. Do you think in a few years, whenever you are a bit further along in your journey, that you might start teaching?
Actually,
do you think it's a good thing?
I actually started studying last month, and I took I don't know the proper word for that. I studied to be a teacher, to be a qualified for teaching, to be able to teach different things. I know, mainly sound engineering, because in my country you have to be a master's degree. You have to have a master's degree to be able to teach a job like this. And I took my studies only for that reason, mainly to be able to teach that someday, even if in school similar to mine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's such a big commitment to make. Education can be very full on, both financially and in terms of time. So it's really great that you've started that journey. Brian, I just wanted to move to you for a sec. We've been talking about a lot of a lot of hardware. We've got Pro Tools and Logic, the AWs. Tell us about your workflow and how you make music.
Thanks, James. Yeah, well, for a long time, it was just making voice memos or MP3 recordings. But I had this thing on my iPhone called GarageBand that I tried to get working. Couldn't get anywhere with it on my own, but with the support of a guy called Will Fletcher, who was running a digital music tech course at a local music group. He kind of made it his business, and together we made it our business to try and figure out how to use GarageBand with voiceover. And so yeah, I mean, I'm happy to demonstrate it later on, but that really enables me to create multi-track recordings for the first time since I used to use a 4-track Fosdex recorder back in the day, and to use acoustic instruments and vocals as well as MIDI, so I can plug my keyboard in and get this wealth of different sounds. Now, I mean, I'm very conscious. I'm in the room with people who are much more skilled at audio production than I am, or probably will ever be. But you know, it's been a real revelation to me just how much I can get done through working just on my phone. And then I create these demos and build them up, usually with, well, I use song sections a lot. I don't know how that translates into other DAW settings, but basically sort of sequences of usually 8 bars, maybe 10 bars, maybe 12 bars, but you know, creating that song section. You know, maybe building that up through an acoustic guitar, a MIDI bass track, a MIDI drum track, maybe a couple of MIDI keyboard tracks, and maybe a couple of vocal tracks, and then you know, typically moving on to the next song section. So you know, one song section might be an intro, another song section might be the verse, the next song section might be the pre-chorus, etc. So I suppose it's a bit like what Scott was showing earlier on with the sort of marked up sections, but obviously in a slightly more primitive way within GarageBand. And you know, that enables me to kind of realize what I'm hearing in my head, and then sort of build that demo up to then take it into. At the moment, what I do is take that demo into the studio, and then mostly recreate that on, you know, using much better kit and a full DAW. I mean, you know, all the audio recording I do is simply using the microphone on the iPhone, which kind of works. I mean, it's certainly for demos, it works really well. So yeah, I don't know whether that answers your question.
No, that's perfect. I think that's a really good example of a really, I think, quite unique workflow that is perfect for, you know, the goal, right? The type of music you want to make. Another example of a workflow that's a bit unique is Joey. Joey, do you want to tell us a bit about your studio and how you work with Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got involved in the studio business when everything was analog. And so, you know, I was excited because the third knob to the left always did the same thing. And you could just memorize that and you were good to go. And even with, I am not, by the way, an august keyboard player like Andre. I am a lousy guitar player, dirty guitar player. But everybody thinks that I play piano, but I do not. But, you know, even with the old keyboards today, I play keyboard good enough to fake it in the studio. And, you know, you could spin the dial 10 times to the right and know that you were at the end of the menu. And then you can figure out, okay, I need to go 3 back, and I'm on the menu that I want. So even then, but today, you know, the knobs continue to turn, they don't stop. A lot of little things like that are vexing. So I went kicking and screaming into the digital world around 2003, and it just had to be done because that's what people wanted, and with good reason. I mean, I'm not a Luddite. I mean, I believe in progress and technology. So I mean, the non-destructive editing, how great is that? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Control Z. It's beautiful. That's I believe that's what God created on the 8th day, or Command Z if you prefer. But then of course there's this wonderful thing that you can collaborate with people all over the world by just shooting a file to somebody. I mean, it's brilliant. I have a lot of sort of famous musician friends that can't be bothered to fly down to my little town, but they can record in New York or LA or wherever they are and send me the files, and it's like it's not quite the same as being in the same room. But anyway, I have a commercial studio that's a large complex. We're getting ready to expand it into a 9,000-foot facility, complete in a different building with dormitories for people to be able to stay on site and work and study. But anyway, I have a large control room with a large analog desk that I had flown over from the UK. It's the Soundtracks Jade. And then I have a huge room for drums. I got a room just for the grand piano. I got another room for the other musicians, and I've got some ISO booths for vocals and ADR and stuff like that. But one of the things that I think is important, and we haven't really touched on this much today, is I do sort of a collaborative work. And what I mean by that is I find what I call seeing eye people and sort of boss them around a bit and say, I convinced one to marry me, which was pretty hard to do. No, there are things that I could not do as efficiently when I first started. There wasn't an option. So, for example, pitch correction was a real problem. Such a visual process. I couldn't do it very quickly. So I would just find anyone that had a working set of eyes and a brain basically, and say, okay, here's what it should look like if you could just grab the mouse and drag this, and that became my workflow. And it's not optimal, but it really worked. And so I don't want to slow down my process or impede my clients. I don't want to charge them more and be slower. And so I had to try and figure out how can I do these sessions with 15 musicians or whatever and work as fast as my sighted counterparts. So we developed a sort of hybrid system where I would use sort of an assistant with a rudimentary computer knowledge, rudimentary audio knowledge, and to be my eyes. And that's one of the things that I've worked on with the DAW. When I first started using Samplitude, which at the time was the best option for a DAW on the PC after my beloved Sonar stopped working. And I'm not saying it was the best program out there, just that I was familiar with it and didn't want to change. But when I first did that, to see the track, for the blind person to have access to all the buttons and knobs and controls and to see all those things, for like arm track and pan and all that stuff, the track had to be maximized so only that track could be seen. Well, that's kind of a problem for me because I'll be setting up drums and I'll be, my computer and my board and stuff, it's a big studio, so they're kind of, far apart. And so I would be at the board setting levels and setting pans and patch, setting up the patch bay and all this stuff with the analog stuff. And then, I would need to know if anything weird was happening inside the DAW. And so one of the things we had to do was come up with a custom solution so I could very quickly zoom out to a maximum track view so you could see 20 tracks at a time, and a sighted person would go, yeah, you're not clipping anywhere, we're all good. It's because you can sound fine on the console and still clip your converter. So, you got to be careful about this stuff. It doesn't happen to me often, but I'm paranoid, and I'd like to triple check everything. I'm a brain tumor survivor, and so I've almost died a couple times, so I like plans A, B, C, and D. Because I'm used to like A not working and B kind of working and C maybe I forgot to bring what I needed. So anyway, my point is that we really had to start working hybrid. And I think one of the things that I really want out of technology, and I think we all probably feel this way, is to collaborate with our sighted counterparts. I mean, that's like a big deal.
Joey, I want to interject. Sorry, James.
Please.
But I need to interject here. The console one will solve every one of those problems for you.
That's exciting.
Instantly.
Yeah.
It's going to eliminate every one of those problems you just spoke about.
That's exciting because that was a real trick, was trying to figure out how we could do that. And so that is like the collaboration to me is where music gets special. And I think that's a really good idea. And I'm so excited to experience this new release. So I'll be buying that as soon as I get out of here.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I gotta go.
I want one too, actually.
Yeah, you need to have it. I mean, it's honestly, it's like not being blind. It gives the sensation. And when we've tested, it show what we tested along sighted counterparts, and there isn't one function that a sighted person can do that we can't do with the same efficiency.
That's very rare in the industry.
That's exciting.
It's rare.
Yeah.
And that came from them assigning an engineer to work with me for 4 months, day in, day out, till we got everything right.
And you know, one of the things that we had problems with scripting is that sometimes if a sighted person configures the screen so it looks right for them, it no longer reads to us.
We sorted all that
Yeah,
out.
see, that's
There's-
how
there's six,
exciting.
we sorted out there's 6 different display modes. We sorted out the one that's most appropriate for us. One button takes us into training mode, and we go right back into mode where we can access everything. It's brilliant. It's 100% on point.
Yeah. No, the console one, I got a chance to see it yesterday in action at ADC, and it's definitely worth everyone checking out. Just to finish with, I want to circle back to something Joey mentioned about what was it? You said you were a lousy guitarist.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
dirty guitarist,
I'm
yeah,
sure that's not true.
No,
But
no.
I think it raises a good point. Like,
That actually guitar, bass, and vocal are my special. I could compete there at a high level, but
sure, yeah.
but yes, I guess what I meant was I'm a guitar player, not a keyboard player, so I'm in the minority here.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Andre, like, you know, a lot of the music I've listened to from you is very keyboard driven. You know, it's a lot of your playing is a
He's a
big sort of
genius.
integral part of your music. How do you feel the accessibility situation is at the moment for people who maybe aren't so confident on the keyboard or on an instrument and are, you know, be making beats or different things like that?
That's an interesting question. I think it depends on what instrument you actually want to play, because I think this is probably quite DAW specific as to the accessibility of whatever you do, because playing keys doesn't mean that you have a good accessibility experience. Do you know what I mean? It's about what you end up using for the job that you want to do. So whether that's GarageBand, Logic, Pro Tools, Reaper, any of those things, you still have to do an inordinate amount of learning to get to a point that you're comfortable. Like, I consider myself a power user of Logic, but put me in front of Reaper and I just cry. I literally feel like a babe in the woods, and it's really quite scary, intimidating. I want to be as good at it, and I'm actually quite impatient, so it's just not happening. But I want to be as good at Reaper as I am at Logic, and that's just not like an instant thing. So I need to spend time with it. But bloody hell, it's annoying.
Yeah, no, well, that's great. We're just running out of time here, guys. So I just want to remind everyone to keep an eye out on this space for the podcast. It's being released next week. All of these people here are making wonderful music and have wonderful projects in progress. So please come and talk to them about those. Get links, get connected, and just thank you everyone for chatting. It's been great.
Thanks, James.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
James.